This is going to be a completely packed video for intelligent people. So you already got your warning right there. If you're not intelligent, you might want to stop this video here and keep it moving. This is for intelligent people. We're going to speak about Uber's new little program they got. They have a new pilot program going on called Advantage versus Standard. It's not set in stone. It's only a pilot because they want to see how far they can go with pushing the law. This video is about law. All the contracts Uber got people entering in, all the terms of services, but essentially the parties involved. We are independent contractors. We are a party involved in these contracts. So you need to understand contract law. Lose your employment W-2 mentality for this video. If you think like an employee, you think you work for Uber, you think you work for Lyft, this video won't make no sense to you. But if you know you're an independent contractor, if you know that, this video about to wake you up a little bit and you're going to be like, I see what they doing. First, let's get started. We're going to talk about duress versus, undue influence. And within duress and undue influence, those two things can make a contract void or voidable. And we need to discuss those four things: duress, undue influence, void, voidable. Here we go.
All right, so our last two ways where we may have a defective contract or a defective agreement would be duress and undue influence. So duress is an act of destroying somebody's free will by force, threat of force, or bodily harm, okay? So if somebody enters into a contract because they're being duressed into it, somebody is forcing them to do it, or they're saying, sign this contract or I'm going to hurt you, okay? That would be an instance of duress. That contract is void or voidable.
Void and voidable. We're going to talk about that. Keep that in mind. Just like I said, it's a very comprehensive video. Think about this stuff.
Okay. Duress can be physical or economic, okay? So physical is pretty straightforward. If somebody is threatening you physically to sign a contract or enter into an agreement, that's not okay. And that contract is either going to be void or voidable, meaning that the person that entered into it under duress could say, you know what? At the time that I agreed to this, I was being threatened with physical violence. I want no part of it. That would be voidable. Okay, economic would be maybe somebody is saying you need to sign this or I am going to withhold your pay. So imagine if you have a job and your boss comes to you and they say, I want you to sign this agreement for one reason or another. If you don't sign it, I'm going to withhold your paycheck and all of your upcoming paychecks as well. That would be an instance of economic duress.
Doesn't it sound like economic duress when these apps tell you, unless you do this, we're going to hold you from making money. We're going to hold you from making the 5% more we're promising these people for doing what we tell them to do in this new contract agreement we've got? When you start using economic duress, punishing people for not doing what you tell them to do within the contract, it forces you to do it, which makes the contract either void or voidable. I'm telling you, this video is going to get pretty deep because what Uber and what Lyft is doing is going to end up putting them in court again. Just like when they had to go to New York or anything else, they're going to end up in court again for economic duress, promising that they will punish you because of this agreement if you don't do what they tell you to do. Accept and decline used to not make us, have to say, okay, you're going to get more, you're going to get less. It didn't make a difference. You had a right to accept or decline anything you wanted. They never gave you an advantage. They never gave you a disadvantage. So for them to blatantly say, if you don't do this in this agreement, we're going to withhold you from making money now. Be ready for that.
Okay, money duress. Okay, so both are viewed equally in the eyes of the law. They make contracts that are entered into under duress void or voidable. Okay, undue influence. Now this is when one party uses power to create an agreement, okay, that's very favorable to them.
This is getting good. Now we're talking about undue influence and how a very powerful entity will use their power to force you to do things because they know you don't have any option outside of that. So they use their power to say, since we control the market of logistics, we basically control the market of rideshare. You can't go to a smaller company and make the amount of money you can make because we take over the whole market. So that's, again, financial duress, using undue influence to create financial duress, which leads to a void or voidable contract. Understand, you're not an employee. You're an independent contractor. We will be talking about contract law on this channel.
Okay, so in order for this to happen, the victim has to prove three things: that there was a caregiver type relationship, okay, there was a use of excess pressure by the caregiver, and that the contract heavily favors the caregiver.
Okay, as he's saying caregiver, you have to put Uber in that spot. Uber is the caregiver. Now, there is a relationship between independent contractors and the caregiver. Uber has to exert some sense of care for independent contractors to begin with. They have to vet certain riders. That's why they do background checks. That's why they do safety checks. That's why they give you 911 on your phone. They have a caregiver relationship with you. They say, we're going to take care of drivers. If drivers drive on our platform, we're going to do what we can do to make it as safe as possible for riders and drivers. We're going to do that. But at the same time, they've got to say, we also have the power over these drivers to end this relationship. And that is the pressure put on by Uber, who is the caregiver. The pressure of saying, we could end this relationship. We can deactivate you if you don't do A, B, or C. It puts pressure on the drivers. So the drivers feel pressured by Uber to do certain things. That's that caregiver pressure relationship. We think we have to accept these rides. We can't cancel what we want to cancel. We have to accept these low fares. We got to be online for this. This is how the caregiver and pressure relationship, the situation is established in this relationship. You've got to understand how law becomes relative based on certain situations. The law is the law, and it's clearly spelled out for everybody. So you've got to say, how does this law apply to me in what situation? And it also says the contract heavily favors the caregiver. It heavily favors Uber. Do all of these terms of services heavily favor Uber? It has to be that in order to create duress. You have to have that. If you don't have it, if you can't say, man, these contracts, they actually favor all the drivers. The drivers are winning. What do you mean? The drivers are, then it can't be duress. The drivers have to say, we're getting paid less. We're working more hours. We have less safety and security. We're not doing better with these apps because of the contracts keep changing and changing. We feel the pressure, the undue influence, and it's creating duress to where financially we feel forced to do all of this stuff that these contracts are making us do, and it's all benefiting Uber. They are getting the advantage of these contracts.
Okay, so this would be an example of undue influence. It's when one party uses power to create an agreement that's very favorable to them. Okay, so in instances of duress and undue influence, those are going to be defective agreements, and they're going to be either void or voidable by the party, okay, that is experiencing the duress or the undue influence.
Now, I wanted to make sure I got duress and undue influence out the way because that sets the stage for void avoidable contracts. I can't talk about void avoidable without talking about how they become void avoidable. Now, the next video clips you're going to see, this guy, he's a real estate guy, and he breaks it down very well. The one you just heard, he was more like probate, will, and estate, but he discussed it so you kind of understand the legal ramifications and the legal criteria of duress and undue influence. This guy right here, oh, he's sharp. I like him.
Hey, void versus voidable. What's the difference? Find out right now. Void versus voidable. Ready? Nice and simple. Let me clear it up. Before I do, I want to talk about contracts, because void and voidable involves contracts, and you got to know what contracts are all about. Let me make it simple. Let me make it crystal clear. Contracts. There's a few elements that involve a contract. Number one, the parties have to be competent. They have to be of legal capacity. Whoa, a fancy word, legal capacity. What the hell does that mean, legal capacity? We're talking about legal age, and we're talking about mental capacity. Number two, there has to be an offer. Somebody has to make an offer. That's easy. Number three, somebody has to accept the offer. There has to be acceptance. Number four, this contract, here it comes, this contract has to be legal. Any illegal activity of a contract, forget about it. It ain't gonna happen. Bada bing, bada boom, throw it in the trash because it doesn't work in the court of law.
Now you see how it says it must be an offer and you must accept that offer. Now you see why on your screen there's an accept button. They send you an offer. You're not under contractual obligation until you hit accept to accept that offer. It doesn't say take ride. It doesn't say I like the ride. It doesn't say I want the ride. It says accept. The moment you hit accept, you are now accepting the offer that they made. Now, the contract has to be legal. There has to be a legal capacity. He's going to say more about that, but I wanted to make sure we pointed out on these apps, you see the word accept for a reason. Even though we hit accept, when we see that offer come, we truly haven't engaged into the acceptance of that offer until we hit start ride to complete the acceptance of that offer. We're only hitting accept to go and see what the offer is about. You may hit accept and you show up and it's 4 people standing on a curb. They want to be slick. So all of a sudden you get there, they're going to say, well, since you here, can we just put 6 in? No, you didn't ask for an Excel. You didn't ask for a black SUV. You put this on Uber X. And now you're saying you want 6 people to ride with me now. This is not an offer I accepted. When they want to change a ride or do anything, that's not an offer you accepted. So when you show up, you don't accept the offer until you hit start ride. Now you've accepted that contract and you have to complete that ride now. Me, I hit accept, I show up, I negotiate. I talk about the new deal that's sitting on the table because it's probably not something that I knew that was going to happen because riders always try something slick. So when I hit cancel, I'm hitting cancel, we're starting a new agreement. Do you accept this agreement, rider? Yes, I accept that agreement, Jeff. Cool, this is how much my agreement costs. Uber and Lyft are upset because we're starting new agreements. If the rider accepts our agreement, they're accepting a contract between us now. Uber, you're out. Lyft, you're out.
Now, the last factor in a contract would be consideration. Now, what the hell is consideration? I want you to pay special attention to this because that term, consideration, I guarantee you're going to see it again on your state exam. Now, consideration is what you're willing to give for something in return. You make an offer on a house. You're willing to give them money. That money is consideration. Now, does it always have to be money? It doesn't always have to be money.
Oh, this is throwing those commercial insurance pigeons for a loop. So consideration does not always have to be money. I've said it in many comments to people that you can do a ride and somebody can say, hey man, I'll offer you these oranges for this ride. And you say, okay, that's fine. So you cancel the ride and do it for oranges. Do you need commercial insurance because somebody gave you some oranges? Well, they didn't pay me. They just gave me oranges. So now the commercial insurance pitch is going to be like, well, if you're not doing it for money, what are you doing the ride for? I do it for a trade. I did the ride because somebody said, hey, Jeff, will you paint my house? Yeah, I'll paint your house. Cool. I'll give you a ride to work for that. Cool. That's consideration. Are you doing a ride for consideration? Yes, you are. Do you need commercial insurance every time a free citizen in this country gives you a ride for consideration? No, you don't. So all these commercial insurance pigeons need to realize what consideration. I just had this argument the other day with somebody about consideration. It's not always about money. It's about consideration. So if you guys want to go around saying every citizen in this country needs to have commercial insurance, if you're doing anything of value for somebody and allowing them to ride in your car, that could be constituted as business, commerce, because you're doing a trade, you're doing consideration, even though it's not financial. That's what his commercial insurance argument is, pure bullshit. And I say it's pure bullshit because somebody's going to say, well, he gave me a ride and I gave him consideration for the ride. It wasn't money. It was consideration. We had a car wreck and now I want to sue him because it was a business ride. And you'll say, it wasn't a business ride. You didn't give me any money, but I gave you something of equal value for that money. I gave you consideration. That means you did a business ride for me. You did an off-app ride for consideration for me because you took me somewhere and I gave you that suit in my closet. It was a $300 suit. I gave you that suit because you wanted it. We did the ride. It was a $100 ride. We thought it was fair trade. Then we got into a wreck. I could sue you. But you never gave me any money. I gave you consideration. So that means these commercial insurance pigeons are now going to run around. Oh man, did you know that somebody can sue us even if we just let them have a ride? If they give us anything of value, anything of consideration, they could sue us now. Man, we all need to have commercial insurance because one guy gave me movie tickets for a ride. I had no idea that was considered equal to money, consideration, a business transaction.
Consideration doesn't have to be money. It can be property. I'll give you this for that. It doesn't always have to be money. Now, let's talk about void versus voidable. What makes a contract void? What makes a contract voidable? Now, number one question is, do contracts have to be in writing? Oh, what a good question. You might see that question soon. Do contracts have to be in writing? Now, the answer to that is no, they don't, but they typically are.
Now, this comes in handy because if a contract doesn't have to be in writing, it's called express. It means something you spoke to somebody. So when you're on the side of the curb and you're saying, hey, man, I'm not doing this route for $13. I'll do it for $25. Is $25 okay? $25 is okay. The cash out be $25. You just entering into a new contract with this person now. You are now taking this person from point A to point B for this much money. You already agreed on it. Sometimes if you agree on it and you don't get the money to the end and they say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to pay you, actually. I should have did it on an Uber app, and they try to get out and walk off. It's a legal contract. You got a for-hire driver. You've got commercial insurance. They didn't pay you. If you know how to sue them as far as getting their first and last name, address, and you can serve them and everything, you can actually sue them for the instance. But the fact that many of us won't because we get our money up front, that's how we do our express contracts. Hey, I'm not doing this for $25. I'll do it for $45. The app is not paying us. Okay. We enter into a quick express contract that does not have to be written.
We typically want contracts in writing so that we're clear of every single stipulation in the contract. We don't want any misunderstanding. We don't want, well, I thought you meant this. Baloney. Whatever's in the contract is what I meant. You signed it, I signed it. It's a valid contract, legally binding, hopefully, if all elements are met, and you're good to go. Void means you can't do it. You can't do it. It's unenforceable. You can't because it's illegal. One of the contract elements have not been met, or it was illegal activity. An example would be illegal gambling, doing something that is against the law. Going into a contract that you know darn well the courts won't allow you to do. Let me give you an example. You find a house, you love it, and you personally know the owner of this house. You've known him since you were a kid. You know his backstory. You know he's, or she is, I don't know, a drug addict. And you say, listen, in exchange for your house, I'm going to give you this amount of drugs. Wow, sounds like a pretty even exchange, a house for drugs. But that's not legal. It's against the court of law. So that contract is definitely what? Yeah, void. Another example would be you make a bet with a loan shark, the local loan shark, an underground bet, under the table bet, $20,000 that the Jets are going to beat, I don't know, the Rams this weekend. And you lose the bet. And the loan shark comes after you and says, where's my money? And you don't have the money. Of course you don't have the money. $20,000. You don't want to pay up. You lost the bet. So he wants to take you to court. How the hell is he going to take you to court? You guys just made an illegal bet. Gambling. Illegal gambling. Doesn't work. That contract? Void. No bueno.
What he means is no good. No bueno means no good in Spanish. I know not everybody speaks Spanish. I just wanted to make sure this video wasn't confusing. I'm just kidding. But that was void. It means there's a contract that has illegal ramifications in there, illegal criteria. So because of the illegal criteria and how it was set up and structured, which is why Uber and Lyft are always in court right now, Prop 22, AB 5, all this other crazy stuff, they have illegal criteria inside of these terms of services and these contracts. So these contracts are all void. That's why they're having settlements. That's why they're losing all these court cases. They're void contracts. They should have never been done. That's why Uber had to go back in time, make it all retroactive, because from the very beginning of that contract, it was all void. They had to retroactively pay all these drivers in New York for all the years that that void contract was sitting on the books. Understand what void means. When I tell people these terms of service right now, and I'm doing what I want to do, how I want to do it, because I know these contracts are all void. They're no good. They're doing a lot of illegal stuff in here based on the Antitrust Act. And when I know that myself, and you got attorneys in 4 or 5 different states saying these contracts violate the Sherman Antitrust Act, I know they're illegal contracts. So why do I want to abide by an illegal contract? I don't. So I do what I do to go out there and get my money. And I bring the situations right to the front on YouTube. I'm not hiding from Uber. I'm not hiding from Lyft. They got to prove that what I'm doing is wrong and what they're doing is right. They got to prove it. We've got duress. We've got undue influence. We've got void. And now we got the next one.
Let's go to voidable. So what makes a contract voidable? We're understood that void means should have never happened. Voidable is a whole different ballgame. Voidable is nice because voidable, there's an option. Voidable, there's an option. It exists. Both parties led into this contract. Both parties agreed to this contract. Nothing illegal about it, but it gives one of the parties an opportunity to say, you know what? I don't think I want to be in this contract. Or do I? Wow, what a situation. They have an option to bail out.
If you've watched any of my videos, if you're new to this channel, you might have not watched it yet. But if you watch any of my videos, Uber has always gave you an addendum that gave them the option to bail out. I even read how they have the option to cancel your commercial insurance without even telling you they cancel your commercial insurance. They give themselves that option in their contract. They always have the bailout. The bailout could be, we could deactivate you. That could be a bailout. We can suspend your account. We can throttle you. We could suspend you for 15, 24 an hour. We can suspend you for whatever. These contracts are all voidable contracts because Uber and Lyft make sure these contracts are voidable. They always give themselves an option to not let the contract go through. They tell you right in your face, this contract is voidable by us. Guess what? We're independent contractors. I also say this contract is voidable by me. When I pull up, if I don't like the way this contract is set up, it is voidable by me, the independent contractor. I'm not doing this ride for $13. Cancel the contract. Let's do it for $30. This contract is also voidable by me. I am one of the parties involved in this contract.
A nice, plain, simple, fun example. I go out to breakfast with my wife at Denny's. And I ask the waiter who comes in, I say, hey, listen, I'd like to order ham and eggs. Sunny side up, my favorite. I love that runny yolk. Ham and eggs. I'm willing to offer you $10, and you're in exchange, you're gonna give me my ham and eggs. A nice, simple contract. He puts my order in, comes back 10 minutes later, and brings me a nice hot plate with steak and eggs. I don't want steak, I wanted ham. Now we had a contract. You were supposed to bring me ham and eggs, and you brought me steak and eggs. Wait a minute, I can void this contract. That's not what I asked for. Or I can say, wait a minute. I kinda like steak and eggs. This actually looks appealing to me. In fact, you know what, I'd rather have this. Let's keep this contract intact. You with me? Now this contract to me is not voidable. I can void it if I want to, or I can keep it alive. I can keep it valid. I have the option. I am the party who says, you didn't bring me what I wanted, but you know what? I like it. I have the ability to void it, or I have the ability to keep it valid. That's voidable.
You got that right. You quick. I told y'all this is going to be for the intelligent. You got that. You can show up and say, I don't like the way this contract is going. It's not necessarily what I asked for. It may be something I could deal with, but I have the option to say, you know what? I showed up. You guys got mud on your shoes. You guys got too many people in your party. You guys got one person that's drunk. I'm not doing it for this price. I'm not doing this ride with two drunk people for $30. I tell you what, I'll do it for $65. You could say, okay, I'll do it for $30. That's fine. It's not what I wanted. I'm going to keep the contract. I didn't want any drunk people, so I'll do it for $30 and you carry it out. Uber's happy because Uber's going to make a ton of money off your back. Or you could say, it's not necessarily what I expected with this contract, so I'm going to void this contract. It's voidable. You may show up. It may be too many groceries. For $7, this is way too many groceries. I didn't think it was this. It's voidable. Anytime you look at the contract sitting in front of you and you look at the actual situation that's unfolding, that contract becomes voidable. Uber tells you, Lyft tells you this contract is voidable. They tell you that specifically to your face in these addendums. It is up to you to determine whether or not the price they're paying and the situation in front of you is equal to what you agreed to. If it's not, it's voidable. You can create a whole new contract right on the spot with the people sitting in front of you. And I told you in the last video why you could do that. Because they specifically say when they're sending out these messages, you're not allowed to do off-app trips unless. They say that word unless, which means you can do an off-app trip, which is a renegotiated contract. You can do it if you follow local regulations and have commercial insurance. You don't have to prove to Uber that you got commercial insurance. You got to prove to your local regulations if you were to be stopped. If somebody said you're doing business, which they're not going to stop you on the highway in an HOV lane going 90 miles an hour. Do you have commercial insurance for renegotiating this Uber contract? Nobody's going to stop you for that. But Uber specifically tells you, you cannot do off-app trips. You can't move these trips off-app unless. They specifically say the word unless. Same with down in Atlanta. You can't do cash route to the airport unless you have proper permits and insurance and documentation and background. They give you the unless. which means your contract is voidable and renegotiable if you follow these criteria. Whether or not you follow criteria is not always on the Uber apps thing. It's on your local regulations. They have to know whether or not you're following it. And if they don't care about it, they don't care about it. But it's not up to Uber to kick you out of the market of negotiating contracts, all because they don't like the fact that you took the power of a voidable contract on yourself.
You see how simple that, although they went against the contract, I chose to move forward. Voidable. I have the option to kill the deal or move on. When you have an option, it's voidable. When it's illegal activity, it's void. Simple as that. Hope this helps you out. Void versus voidable. Let's make it crystal clear. Void, it's against the law, should have never happened. Voidable, it's okay, it happened. And you have the right to cancel it. You have the right to make it void if you want to.
So hopefully now we're all on the same page with duress, undue influence, void, and voidable. Let's have this conversation about the new shit they got going on with this whole, if you accept so much, we'll let you come up a tier and we'll give you specific rides. We'll give you advantage against all these other riders out there, all these other drivers. We'll give you the advantage. You can't do that. That's a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. You can't do that. You cannot purposely give certain contractors an advantage or a privilege over other contractors because it's a pay-to-play scheme. And you always don't have to have money to pay. Like I said, it's consideration. It's a trade-off. It's, hey, if you take all these shitty rides and you help us make a ton of profits on y'all back, we'll give you a couple of good rides here and there. We'll make sure we send you specific rides directly. But if you don't do that, you don't give us that exchange, we're not giving you that advantage. We're going to say you only can get trips out of a trip radar. You're getting all the popcorn on the ground trips. You got to hurry up and click something so everybody else can get it. Otherwise, you're going to be out. You got to hurry up and click something before everybody else gets it or you're done. Those are the kind of activities and the kind of tactics companies they create duress, financial strain on you. They want undue influence. They want to create a voidable contract. This is what they're doing. Understand business law. You're not an employee. If you're not digging into all of this, you're not getting it. And they wonder why I don't mind shit showing up in Trip Radar because I know what's in Trip Radar. If I'm close enough, I'm going to get double that money. So it don't bother me. And the apps know it don't bother me. So I'm looking at all these drivers out there that don't have the same skills I have, the skills to sell my vehicle and to sell myself. They don't all have those skills. So they're going to be the ones suffering dramatically. Me, if I get a ping, I'm going to get money. If I don't get a ping, I'm going to cruise to the place where everybody's having activities. I'm going to get money. So what we got to do is understand how these contracts are set up, how they're set up against us as independent contractor, how they are manipulating the market. They are manipulating the market to their benefit, to their advantage, not to yours. Once you understand that, you start understanding how all of this shit is void. It's all illegal. They're basically telling you they're going to punish you for not abiding by their new terms of service, of saying, if you don't take these rides that you're not going to really profit a lot on, it's going to increase your AR, but it's not going to increase your bank account. It's going to increase our bank account as Uber and Lyft. We're going to make a killing. We're going to take advantage. We're going to have way more of a benefit from this new agreement than you're going to have. It's going to run your car into the ground. It's going to make you work twice as hard to get more money. And it's all for a promise of 5% more revenue. You're going to make 5% more revenue. So for every $100 I make, you're going to get $105. I'm like, so you want me to take a bunch of shit rides to boost your income, boost your profit margins? But when it comes to my profit margins, you're going to say, well, we're going to hold you on a standard level, 5% less than what everybody else is getting. So that means out of every 1,000, well, I'm going to get 1,050. So instead of $1,000, I'm going to get $1,050. That's what you're saying. If I take all of these shit rides, basically. Yeah. So for $50 more for using more fuel, more of my time, taking worse passengers probably, all because you want me to increase my AR, I'm going to get punished if I don't do it. That's basically what we're saying. Well, this is what I do. When me and Jamil are out kicking and doing shit, we get our money. This is how we get our money. the true independent contractor way.
This is the coolest thing. So I just did a ride. Now it was to Walmart and back. The ladies from Canada, me and Jamil were down here at the hotel, and she was like, hey, I need to go to Walmart. I said, cool, I'll take you. She says, well, I could just get another ride back. I was like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I said, I'll stay and wait. It's 52 minutes, almost an hour. Almost an hour. I sat at that Walmart. Well, congestion time is 33 minutes. So I was at Walmart for 33 minutes sitting there because I wasn't going nowhere for 33 minutes. I sat. She went in and I told her 20 bucks. I was like, 20 bucks. And I thought I was going to just go there. She's going to get a couple of things. She went grocery shopping pretty much. I sat there for 33 minutes while this lady grocery shopped. She came back out to the car. She was like, I'm so sorry. I just came to get a couple of things. And I started, I'm going to be at the hotel for 6 days. So let me get some extra stuff while I got you here. So I'm so sorry. I had hum running the whole time because I thought she was going to be quick. Let me hit that. I thought, so if she would have took a hum, it would have been $47. I told her 20 bucks, thinking it was going to be quick. She gave me $60. She said, I'm so sorry. I was like $50, $60 because I know you were waiting for a while. I didn't mean it. I'll give you like 50, 60 bucks. She gave me $3.20. She was like, here's $60. I think that's fair. I'm so sorry I had you waiting for so long. Hum would only paid $47. She gave me $60. See, man, I love good people because all I told her was 20 bucks. That was it. I said 20 bucks, thinking it was going to be quick. Got $60 to take somebody to Walmart and back. 6.43 miles, 30-minute wait, $60. Man, I'll never do that again. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it again. She was pretty cool.